Hi guys, welcome back to Barrovain Made. Today is December the 1st. All the way up until Christmas, I'm going to be making a video detailing a project that we can make for our loved ones out of our scrap pieces of wood, one day builds, little things like that. So we all have something to give on Christmas. So in this video, I'm going to be making a chopping board out of some scrap pieces of wood and some leftover resin. Let's quit talking, let's get into it. Merry Christmas, my dudes. So, I have made a mold. What I've done, just got an old bit of board. It's veneered and stuff. Sorry, it's so dusty. It's been sat in my shed for a day or two. Uh, I put a bunch of tape on it, put some NDF around the sides, and then I use silicone the whole way around to make sure it's all sealed in. No matter what we put in this, it's not going to pour out and go everywhere. I've made this a little bit bigger because I'm afraid, because of the silicone and stuff like that around the corners, that the edges are going to be too rounded. So we have enough room to be able to square up everything and make it all nice. And also, I have these little bits of oak that I fear I'm not going to be able to do much with. So what the plan is going to be is we're going to cut this all up into loads of little squares, and we're going to try arrange them in like a diamond pattern and then fill in the gaps around it with resin. So hopefully this looks very nice. I think I'm going to go with a blue resin. I would usually go with a black resin, but I don't know. Let's make this one a bit unique, a bit different. So let's get on to it. Let's put this in the table saw, get it all cut up into our pieces, and we'll start gluing everything down where we need it, and then we can pour the resin. Let's get on with it.
So first off, sorry if the audio sounds a little bit different. I got a brand new mic. I'm using a different mic than I am voiceover in this than when I had it in the video, if that makes any sense. Hopefully the audio sounds better. Let me know down in the comments. But first thing we're going to do is make sure everything is nice and squared up, and then we can go on and start cutting out all the little squares that we're going to be using. I've actually changed my mind on like a diamond pattern or anything like that. I'm actually going to just be doing like a brick lane pattern. I think it'll look better, and I didn't really want to use loads and loads of resin, and this was the best way to use the least amount of resin as possible. And to make sure each one of these blocks is the exact same size, I put a little mark and a scratch on my table and bumped it up against that.
Right, so we have all our little squares cut out, but I am going to do this differently. I was going to do a diamond pattern going across here, but I kind of figured out it's going to take more epoxy to do a diamond pattern, and I have very limited epoxy. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to even do this. I might have to order more epoxy, but we're going to be doing it in like a brick sort of formation like this, going across the whole thing. These are all going to be randomly scattered, grain going each which way direction. Thought it might be interesting. So we have our little spacers. I worked out I need a 3mm spacer to go across each one. So this is hopefully going to help us get it more straight, continuous, and blah blah blah. And I also have some super glue because I'm gonna have to super glue each one of these blocks down to the mold to make sure that they don't just start, floating once I put the epoxy in. Also, I had to remove the silicone bead that went around the perimeter so these could get nice and square in the corner. I'm a little bit worried about leaking, but just before I do the mold, just before I put the epoxy in, I'm gonna go around the outside of this with more silicone, and fingers crossed we don't get a leak. So I'm gonna quit talking. We'll put you on a time lapse, and we'll get all this put down.
So two things, my camera died while doing this, and another thing, the super glue didn't stick. So I ended up just using normal silicone to stick them all down, but we got them all stuck down, and as you can see, they're not absolutely perfect. For some reason in my head, I thought, well, if I just pour the resin, surely it won't look too bad. Spoiler alert, it looked pretty bad. Everything was a bit out of whack and stuff, and you'll see this later on in the video, but right now we're just going in, we're pouring in all the resin. I'm trying to push it to different sides, realizing that I'm going to need a lot more resin to fill all these gaps than what I thought I did. I didn't have a lot of resin, and I had to actually order in more, which is annoying because resin's quite expensive and I don't have a lot of money, but we got it done in the end.
Right. So I have bought begrudgingly some more epoxy. So expect to see more epoxy projects on this channel because this cost me like 80 odd quid. So yeah, and yes, if anyone is asking or if anyone is interested, this is like the cheapest brand on Amazon. It's got good reviews though, so hopefully it's good. Right. Let's get mixing some epoxy up and finish doing this mold. And I have a plan, by the way, to fix all the inconsistent lines. Because the super glue didn't work, then I had to use silicone to glue each block down, and obviously things moved, but I have a little plan to fix that after everything is poured. So let's finish the pour first. And remember, when you think you've mixed the epoxy for long enough, mix it for another 5 minutes, because well, a little bit more mixing will never hurt. Make sure you scrape the bottom, scrape the sides, make sure everything's all in with each other, because if you have parts of the epoxy that aren't mixed right, it won't set off and you'll have a goopy mess. And that's not what I want, because epoxy is expensive. Just to double check that I've mixed this right, I'm just going to pour it in between 2 cups.
And if you're looking at this epoxy and thinking, wow, it's very dark and you put a lot of pigment in that, in the first one I did use a lot of pigment and I wanted to make sure I matched it. So, and I didn't really count how much pigment I put in. So I thought if I just put loads and loads of pigment in, surely it's going to be somewhat close. And with the way I ended up fixing the epoxy, not the epoxy, sorry, you know, the lines and stuff. With the way I ended up fixing that, you couldn't really tell the colour matching stuff anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not too good at epoxy. As you can see here, instead of just pouring it in the lines, I've just poured it on and I'm just scraping it around to make sure it's in all the gaps. But we managed to get it done. We managed to get it all in and all filled and stuff. So yeah, hopefully I get better with epoxy soon. But now we're going to go and chuck it in the surface planer. I'm going to take off that top layer of epoxy so we can see how bad the lines are. And yeah, I think it was really, really bad. But anyway, we need to take it to the table saw now because we're going to go ahead and square up all the edges, get all the rough epoxy off all the sides and stuff. And that bit of wood I used to just take up the rest of the volume in the mold because didn't have enough space. No, I had too much space in there, so I just put a bit of scrap wood in there. I'm rambling on here. Let me talk about stuff that's actually relevant. This is my method on fixing those lines. What I am doing is I'm raising the table saw blade up a couple of millimeters and I am just running it through to make consistent lines. And I actually forgot to record, but for the other lines that go through, I ended up just using a square and a router and running it down to each one. But obviously you can't just push it through because then you'll cross over certain lines and you'll lose the pattern. So I went in, I plunged in a couple of millimeters. Once I hit the gap, lifted up and went over it again. That's hard to explain this without showing you. But hopefully with me explaining, you somewhat get what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's how I ended up fixing the pattern. And as you can see there, I'm just going through and filling up the epoxy with it. And to be honest, if you wanted to save epoxy, you could realistically do this in the first place. And I probably could have done that diamond pattern I was talking about in the first place if I just had one solid big block of wood, and I did that. And I was actually thinking about maybe trying to do this on a table, but not really doing the whole table in a pattern, if you know what I mean. I was like thinking about doing it in like a gradient. So one side would be full of the pattern and it'd slowly fade out into normal wood. I think it'd be a pretty cool idea, but then again, I don't really want to waste the whole tabletop. So what's your opinion, guys? Is that a project you'd like to see in the new year? Obviously, I'm trying to get a bunch of these Christmas gift ideas stuff done through December, so I won't be working on any tabletops. But next year, I want to have some projects I can really focus on and get some nice stuff. Like I talked about in a video a while ago, I want to focus more on making quality content, better projects, and taking more time with my videos and stuff. You know, spending more time on editing and doing all that stuff in the new year. And I think that would be a good project to do. I don't know. Currently, I'm just trying to gather up a list of cool projects and stuff that I could put on YouTube and make unique sort of things. So yeah, let me know if that would be something you'd like to see in the future. I'm not 100% sure on it yet, because I think it could go either two ways, of it looking disgusting or great. But now, back to this project. We put on that little border around the side because obviously when we're cutting out those lines for those bits, you know, you're going to see it on the side that it only goes down a couple of millimeters. So I decided to put a quick little oak border going around it. And this does look really nice, I think, in my opinion anyway. I didn't end up doing the back side of it because this is just going to be a little tray for me to put my laptop on and stuff. It's not actually a gift or anything. And I didn't want to use any more epoxy because I have plans for other epoxy projects in the future. I just wanted to make sure this looked nice. So yeah, just did one side of it. But as you can see, it came out really, really nice, I think. I'm not too keen on the blue colour. It looks a little bit too dark for me. I think I would have preferred a slightly lighter colour. And also, I wish I put all the blocks in the same grain direction. I purposely put them in different directions, thinking it would look cool in a random pattern. But I think it would have looked better if the grain was all going one way. But I do like how they are all different shades of colours. I just don't like the grain orientation. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. I hope to see you in the next one. Good day.